Happy 11th episode for our Indy 11 guest, Shelby Gilmore. She's an IUPUI Sport Management graduate and is the manager of team administration for Indy 11. Thank you for being here. We're super excited.
Thanks for having me.
Our little giggle fest today.
We made it this far.
We're trying.
We did.
We're trying. But tell us about what you're doing right now.
Yeah, so we're right in the middle of the season. We're almost a third of the way through. So currently, we have a very, very busy week heading into the next 2 weeks. We go to Monterey, California next weekend, and then we come back to Indy, and we play in the U.S. Open Cup at home against San Antonio FC. That'll be midweek in 2 weeks, and then after that, we will go to Miami, Florida in 2 weekends. So very, very busy. I'm currently kind of just finalizing all the plans for those trips, specifically making sure that I properly communicate with San Antonio's team. And then looking forward past that, it's just starting to plan any other trips that we have coming up. Trying to stay in the loop with U.S. soccer and the Open Cup because it's always better for that tournament specifically to plan ahead, just because a lot of things can kind of be thrown together last minute and everything. But yeah, and then we're still kind of finalizing our roster to an extent. So right now we have 22 signed professional players, and then we have, I believe it's 5 academy players that are in our building every day. So just also trying to take care of any special requests that they have, as well as our coaching staff.
Oh, you travel a lot, it sounds like.
Yes.
Is that like always a travel stretch? Like what's the farthest place you've gone? Really?
Monterey, California is one of the farther ones that we go to. We were in Oakland, California earlier this year in March. And then that's pretty much the farthest we go. We've gone to San Diego. That team has folded since we last went there. There's a team in Orange County, which I believe is like the LA area. So we will go there. We were just in Colorado last weekend. We go to Providence, Rhode Island in July 4th weekend, and then all the way down to Miami, like I said, in 2 weekends. So yeah, we pretty much hit every quadrant.
Yeah,
of
you
the
hit
United
that whole
States.
country.
Yeah.
How do you deal with like the time changes and stuff like that?
It's tough. I think the one thing with we're in the USL Championship, which I like to explain is like we're basically the Indians of MLS. So we are second division. With that, we fly commercial with everywhere we go. So that's incredibly tough sometimes, having to deal with canceled flights, delays that then affect our connections that we have to make. But, it's tough. It certainly is. You have your really, really rough weeks. That's what we just dealt with last week when we were in Chicago midweek. That was a bus trip. Luckily, we didn't fly, but even sitting on a bus for 3 hours can be pretty tough sometimes.
Yeah.
And then flew directly into Denver, and then we drove about an hour and 10 minutes south for our game in Colorado Springs. So it's just relying on your coworkers, and luckily the guys make it good. They've got really good banter, especially this season with our group of guys. So they kind of help get through it, but you're mainly relying on your tech staff and your coaching staff to kind of just, we're all going through it together.
Yeah.
So
How much time do you get from like, say when you land to like when they play? Like do you have a certain amount of time you try to give them to like...
So we... For any game that we do, we will arrive into market at least 24 hours before kickoff. For our trips to California, we fly in 2 days before just to try to help as much as possible with the time adjustment, with it being obviously a 3-hour difference. So we always have at least 24 hours, and then just kind of depending on what our flight times are, because again, with flying commercial, we book all of our flights in January or February. And so we have an idea going into each game what our itinerary is going to look like, and I'm able to obviously plan some downtime around that. But there are some games and some trips where you're kind of going from the second you enter the airport until you get to your hotel. And then sometimes, depending on what trip it is and what time it is, we're going straight into training, and then we're going to a meal after that. And so it's very, very long days, the travel days.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It sounds like it.
Yes.
Ooh, what are the team managers? Like they're just always on the go.
Yeah,
playing.
it's tough, but that's kind of the the responsibility of myself and the other tech staff members. And I like to say this a lot, but I do whatever I can to try to make it as easy as possible for our players and our coaches to perform on the field. that's getting to the airport an hour before the guys do, to make sure that all the boarding passes have been printed, all the bag tags are taken care of. If we're able to, and the airline is nice enough to let us, we'll check bags before the guys even have to arrive. So we can they walk in, we give them their boarding passes, they go straight through security, and then they go sit at the gate for a while.
So they get it easy.
Yeah, they definitely do.
They're like,
show
hey.
up.
They just show up.
I give them their per diem money, and then they go. That's the best part for them.
Do you have like a airline that you guys consistently use, or does it like kind of depend on where you're going?
It depends. Like I'm trying to think, like when we fly into Loudoun, which is the DC area, United is a hub in the DC area, so we fly almost always United to Loudoun. For the most part, though, in years past, it's been American, but American was really tough to work with last year. We had, on 2 separate occasions, we had flights completely canceled. And then on 2 other occasions past that, we had delays that were large enough that affected our connection. So we were kind of stuck in cities as we were trying to come back to Indianapolis. This year, we've only flown Southwest so far. That's really nice because we fly with a ton of bags. We have 17 to 18 huge roller bags. And so I know our accounting department really likes Southwest because we get free bags, and so we do not have to pay for anything.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, they're like, no money
ever
spent.
flown through Southwest.
It's fine. Delta is my personal favorite, but Southwest is nice, obviously with the different boarding passes or boarding zones that you can go in.
Yeah.
But they've also made a change to their group policy that when checking in a group, they automatically get thrown into the B's and C's. So we don't even really get good boarding spots anymore with Southwest.
Dang.
Yeah.
So you handle like the flights and the pre-flight and post-flight. Like, walk us through that. Like, how do you prepare for every single game? And like you said, you start way back in January before.
So the USL Championship works with 2 separate third-party vendors that help with a lot of this planning. So Sports Travel Management is in charge of not necessarily finding, but working with each individual team in our league to find and secure a hotel contract. And then it is SportsCore who does all of our flights. So I schedule a meeting. As soon as the schedule comes out, I'm sending an email to our travel agent to schedule a time when we can go over flights. We try to go through all of them in one meeting, and I normally get 3 to 4 different options that she will send to us with pricing. Obviously, flying with 24 individuals on a commercial flight, there's not a ton of options and not always at best price either. So we have to kind of work with what we have available to us. And then, like I said, with STM, they find and secure all the hotel contracts. So we have market info sheets for every team in the league. So I normally, whenever I'm starting my planning process, will just pull up that market info sheet that has the contact for the hotel that we will be staying at, as well as the bus company that we'll be working with while we're in market. And then as well as the team contact. I'm pretty, with being, this is my 5th season as the team admin, I've got pretty good connections with all the team admins. There is a decent amount of turnover in regards to that, but it still allows me to continue the relationships that I'm able to build with them. First thing that I kind of start with in the planning process is reaching out to the hotels and to the bus company just to give them an idea of what our general itinerary is going to look like in terms of flight times, meal needs, and how many rooms we're going to need at the hotel specifically. Past that, then I go into making our actual itinerary. Then I go over that with the coaching staff because depending on what coach I'm working with, currently we have Sean McCauley as our gaffer right now. And he's incredibly easy to work with and super collaborative, which I appreciate more than I can say. And so I work with him to figure out what are we going to do for dinner on Friday? What are we going to do for lunch on Saturday? What's it look like around the hotel? Do we need to give the guys per diem? Do we need to order in a meal? Because again, these are professional athletes, so you want to make sure that you're providing them with the best quality stuff that we possibly can. Some hotels that we're staying at have better kitchens and chefs than others. So you really sometimes do have to get creative with, what we're providing to our guys. Mm-hmm. And then leading into the week of our trip, it's just making sure that everything's finalized, all my T's are crossed, all my I's are dotted, so on and so forth. And then day of travel is just, getting to the airport early, getting to the bus early, depending on what trip and what type of transportation we're taking. And then, just kind of I think the biggest thing is just planning for any fires that could pop up. So it's always having a contingency plan for almost anything that we're dealing with while we're, wherever we are for the weekend.
On your trips like this, like, do you ask or, like, do the players ever, like, give you feedback about, like, meals or, like, they don't like this or that? Like,
oh, yes.
Are they very vocal about that?
They are very opinionated, which is honestly, though, it's really great because it's very cliche saying, but I can't fix a problem that I don't know about. And so the thing, too, is this season specifically, I'm traveling on every trip. That hasn't always been the case with the different coaches that I've worked under. Solely just depends on what the coach prefers, whether it's having me on the trip or the equipment manager or a combo of both where we're kind of splitting the games throughout the season. So I'm also relying on the players to an extent in my planning process for the trips that I haven't been on to ask, like, hey, do you remember what the hotel food was like? Should we start to look to plan to have catered in? Same with wherever we might be training and kind of what the stadium looks like as well. But they will definitely tell me their opinion.
I was gonna say, they'll definitely tell you that.
Yes, but I appreciate it.
What does, like, so you do all this traveling, you get there, and for, like, game days, like, what is your role then at that point? Like,
for away games on game day, it's actually pretty simple. I've gotten to the point now, like I said, 5th season. It used to be that I was the one who would go with our equipment manager and sometimes also acting as the equipment manager, going to the stadium and setting up the locker rooms, getting a lay of the land in terms of, like, how the guys will walk to the field, where our roster exchange meeting is going to be with the referees. But this season specifically, it's been a little bit easier on me. It's our athletic trainer and our equipment manager that goes to the stadium for every game. So on game days, it's really just making sure that our meals are on time. Our most important meal that we do throughout the weekend is our pre-match meal, which is 4 hours prior to kickoff. Making sure that that's on time and that it's everything that's been communicated with the hotel and make sure all of our food is there. That's important because if it's late, then the guys aren't digesting at the right time. I don't know all the science behind it. I just know that I just know it's 4 hours before kickoff, and then just ensuring that the bus is there on time. Again, obviously, we don't want to be late to the stadium.
Right.
And then an hour before kickoff, I am part of the roster exchange meeting with the referees, the head coaches of both teams, and then the other admin. And that is where, obviously, we exchange the rosters, and the coaches get to see who is starting for the other team. And then working with the referees to go over minimum standards and what they're going to be looking at throughout the game in terms of where they might be giving yellow cards, red cards, and kind of their points of emphasis that they need to touch on.
So are you still kind of doing the same like job you did with equipment that you are now a little bit, or has it changed a lot?
It with the equipment side, it's just been a little bit of a unique situation, I would say. So I started in January of 2020, so yeah. My first year was crazy, to say the least, with COVID protocols that we had to follow, and I didn't know what a normal season looked like, luckily, to an extent. So it made it a little bit easier because I didn't have anything else to fall back on. But that season, our equipment manager traveled on every trip because we only took bus trips that year. And so I did go with him to the stadium just to kind of see what it was like. I more than anything wanted to have that experience. In 2021, we split the season, so it was really crucial for me to be able to see how he set up the locker room, so that way I could try to emulate it as best as possible. 2022, I didn't go on a ton of the trips, so I didn't really have to worry about doing much on the equipment side. And then last season, in 2023, we had to let our equipment manager go mid-season, and so for 3 games, I was the equipment manager, which was very tough. It was not only was I in charge of doing all of my responsibilities, but then also doing somebody else's job was definitely difficult. And then we hired on an equipment manager last year. I believe he started in August. However, at that time, we only traveled with 23 individuals, and 18 of those are always going to be players. So we only had 5 staff members that were able to go. And I had done I think at that point 4 away games on my own as the equipment manager. So the coach was like, we're just going to keep it rolling. So I was our equipment manager on the road for about half the season.
So you kind of just got thrown into it.
Yeah. And it's, I obviously work for a men's team, so it's also really tough to be a woman in the locker room because there are points I can't be in there because I don't want to see anything. So it's like, it's tough too because then it's putting more responsibilities on our like tech staff and our coaching staff. But we kind of all took it in stride because we're all just working towards the end of the season, hoping that we can lift a trophy at the end. And if that's kind of what I have to do, then it's kind of like to an extent, you got to shut up and put up and just keep going, put your head down and just grind out.
Dang.
Oh, yeah.
Are you like one of the only women on staff then? Or?
Yes. So obviously it's a little bit unique with our organization because our front office is here in downtown Indianapolis, but the team all work up at Westfield at the Grand Park campus. So on the team side, I am the only female. So I would say 3 to 4 days out of the week, I am the only female in a building of sometimes upwards of like 40 men.
How is that?
It certainly presents its challenges. I think, again, with me having this role for so long, this is my 3rd season as being the only female in that building.
Wow.
I was very lucky in my first 2 years that our athletic trainer, Misha, was also a female. So I relied on her a lot. And now looking back on it, I did certainly take her for granted to an extent, but I just didn't know any different. I miss her on a regular basis. But yeah, I mean, it's tough, but the guys are really respectful this year and last year. And so it's been easier to work with. And I've gotten to a point, too, where I've earned enough respect from them that if any lines do even come close to being crossed, I can be like, yo, we're not doing that right now.
Yeah.
You're like, no.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so you made it seem like before the last 2 years were there men who weren't like very...
I've never had an issue with respect from any of our players. I think you have your difficult players in the same way that you have your difficult coworkers or difficult students, difficult partners in a project that you might be working on. So, they've certainly walked through our doors, and at this point, I kind of have adopted the mentality of like, the players don't have to like me, and I don't necessarily have to like them in order for both of us to still do our jobs.
Right.
So...
Boom. Well said.
Boom.
Well
There
said.
it is.
I definitely did prepare for that one.
She was like, I'm ready.
I know what I'm saying there.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Going back to, you said you really only had half a season in COVID. How was it the switch off from that being your first year to then having the full season after that and then changing positions as you go?
So, like I said, first season was a weird one. We did have one regular season match before COVID hit, March 7th. We played in Memphis. And then right before we were supposed to set off for Kansas City, the league went on a 30-day hiatus that then obviously turned into a much longer hiatus. I did get furloughed that year, so that was also just a weird thing to kind of navigate through, especially I had been in the industry for 6 months at that point. So I was just like, is this how it always is? But then, so we had 17 games that year, which is technically just half of a USL championship season, like you said. And then 2021 was a very, very rough year, just in terms of workload, because they cut the season by 2 months, but we still had, I think we had 32 games, which is 2 less than a regular season. So to put it into perspective, our normal season runs from the beginning of March until the end of October. And we had our season run from, I believe it was the first weekend of May to the first weekend of October. So we did, that one was a very, very rough year.
Yeah.
It was a lot of work in a very, very short amount of time. It was beyond anything. But again, I didn't know what a regular season was like.
True.
So to an extent, I look back on 2021 and I'm very grateful because the rest of the seasons are kind of easy to an extent because the first 2 were so crazy and all over the place.
So did you have to, was it the same amount of travel as it is in a regular season? Oh,
Yes.
Geez.
Now, I will say that the USL Championship did, in 2020 and in 2021, we had divisions. So we have obviously an Eastern and a Western conference currently, But within that, they broke each conference, I think, into 2 or 3 different divisions. So we were really only kind of playing the same teams every once in a while. But, that year we flew to El Paso, Texas. So, that wasn't in our division by any means.
Yeah.
And so it was mainly bus trips, but we did have a few flights every once in a while. But not nearly as many flights as we take in a quote-unquote regular season.
Yeah. Yeah, it had to have been hard just you're constantly on the go now, but having that packed into
that year we had a 5-day trip to Oklahoma City, and that was probably the toughest week because it was also my birthday.
Did you bus that?
No, we flew.
Oh, I was gonna say.
Yeah, but with small market airports like that,
That's true.
We have to connect somewhere. So it's almost always through Dallas when we go to Oklahoma. And DFW is, honestly, it's one of the better airports.
I say it's my favorite.
And we
as a flyer.
There are certainly worse airports to fly through, but at that point we had really only flown through Dallas. So I think that was,
It's
like
massive.
It's a huge airport.
It is massive.
Yes, and I think that was like the 8th time we had flown through it that year at that point.
You're
so I was
over
just
it.
like, please,
back
I just
here
want to be in. Because again, it was the day of travel was also mine and our goalkeeper coach's birthday. So it was just like, this is the best way to seize my
Happy birthday,
airport.
going to the airport.
Recently did that.
You did do that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we went to Boston recently, and we traveled on my birthday, and we're just in the airport.
Happy
This is fun.
Dang. So earlier you said how San Diego went under, and do you see that often in this league?
Not in my time in the league. I think San Diego is the only team that has folded since. No, I take that back. Oklahoma City was another one. They didn't technically fold. They said they'd be coming back. But they just kind of haven't. RGV down in Texas did fold over in the off season. It's unfortunately it's just a part of this league. Depending on how well the organization is run, and that is not me saying that any of those organizations were run poorly, but when the money runs out, the money runs out.
The economy ain't the
there's
nicest
only
thing
so
right
much.
now.
And, RGV specifically was tough because I can't imagine what their flight prices must have been like because McAllen Airport is so small. And depending on how small your airport is, your flight prices can, really increase.
That's true.
And then San Diego, I can't speak exactly what happened there, but I know that it was shortly after the MLS team was announced was coming to San Diego.
Oh.
Yeah. So...
There it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
There it is.
Yep.
I just wondered how all that worked.
Yeah, I wasn't sure either.
Do you see with teams going under, are new teams ever joining often?
Yeah,
okay.
So Rhode Island is a brand new team this year that we'll be going to. I can't name all of them off the top of my head, but I know that there's a Milwaukee team that's joining, a Jacksonville team that is going to be joining. Did I say Iowa? I don't think Iowa's going to be joining. There's a few that they have in the works to join over the next 3 years. USL Championship is really working to kind of expand the league.
Constantly
really
working at that.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That makes me think of the new stadium being built downtown, right? How are you preparing for that, and do you know when it's going to be finished?
We haven't been given an exact date, just because I know that there were some hiccups that they kind of dealt with recently, obviously, but we're just kind of, I don't want to say we've been kept in the dark because that is not it at all, but we're at the point where it's kind of just once we hear things, we'll hear things. We're obviously incredibly excited. IUPUI is great, and Carroll Stadium is great, but having an 18,000 seat stadium that we can go into and, state of the art, world class facilities that we can work in. You go to some of these other stadiums across the league that do have a soccer specific stadium. Colorado was just one that I think they finished it in 2022 was their first season that they had it. And you look at that and it's just it gives you a little bit of motivation to keep going, keep grinding out because we're going to have that in hopefully, 2 to 3 years to work with.
That'd be super cool.
It looks cool.
Yeah,
I'm very
it does.
excited. Yeah.
It's not even just a stadium. It's everything around it. They just
Well, yeah, and the crazy part is that I started when Indy 11 was still playing in Lucas Oil Stadium. So you go from that
I
to
heard
then
about that.
Carroll Stadium. It's quite the difference.
we were just talking about that.
But so it's exciting to be able to kind of get back to what we were working with in Lucas Oil Stadium.
Because I think were you in my class? We were just talking about this. Maybe it wasn't your class, but we were just talking about how you guys had to you didn't really have to like do much prep at Lucas Oil, but now Carol, you have to do like every staff member's out there doing the work.
Yes, yeah, because the way I think the way it was at Lucas Oil Stadium is that all of the workers were unionized. So like literally if I needed a folding table, I had to radio somebody to come and bring me a folding table because I technically could not go and find my own folding table. So it was very nice. Yeah, I think obviously it's been a few years, but I think on game days I would show up at like 2:30, 3 p.m. to start setup, and now I'm at Carroll anywhere between like 12 and 1.
Hey.
And like that's only a few hours, but over the course of like a 10-hour day, it really does make a difference.
It's a long day.
Yeah.
Will you guys have like your own thing then, like at the new stadium, or is it still like what's it kind of gonna be like?
I just know that the locker room setup, because that's kind of all I really deal with on game days. The locker room setup is going to be very, very nice. I have seen some pictures of those. And obviously with us bringing in a professional women's team as well, we will be kind of sharing a space with them, but the locker rooms will be separate. So.
Okay, I did not know about this professional women's.
Yeah. So it won't be NWSL. It's going to be the USL Super League, which is their new women's league that they're starting up, I believe, next year.
Cool.
But yeah, we're very excited for that, and I'm also very excited because I'd eventually like to switch over to the women's side.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
been around men for a while.
She's like, let
I've
me
done my
the
dues.
women over here. That's
Getting
cool.
the new one and volleyball.
And the new volleyball.
That's
team.
exciting.
Wait, there's a volleyball team coming?
There's a professional
Yeah.
volleyball team coming.
I didn't know that.
They're going to be in
2
Fishers.
Yeah.
In Fishers. Nice.
Indy Ignite.
I can't wait for that too.
Yeah.
Indy. Go Indy, go. Yeah, I did not know about that woman's. Has it kind of been newly announced?
Well, it's been kind of kept on the DL just because we won't be bringing that team in until we have the stadium. So
Okay.
yeah, that's kind of why we haven't given an
wait.
exact
I also
date.
don't
because
really
of
follow
that.
soccer, so I wouldn't know if it was.
I don't either. I'm learning.
You should get into it. It's a very, very good
I
sport.
will be
I
learning
kinda-
a lot.
We went to, for sport management, we went to Nashville and we went to their, like,
Oh yeah.
it is
yeah, you did.
nice there.
Yep.
Geodis Park or something like that.
I can't remember.
It's something like, it was a weird name like that.
Did you go to the
Something
training
like that.
facility or just the stadium?
Just the stadium.
Yeah.
But I was like,
Whoa. Yeah. We played in Columbus last year at their newer stadium, lower.com field. And yeah, you see that and you're like, wow, this is what I like eventually want to get to because it's just the stadiums are absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's exciting because they're building a new one.
And now we're
so
getting
it
one.
should be,
Yeah.
and now
should
we
be
get to have
super
one.
cool.
Yep.
No, you go.
I was just going to say the location
There you
is
go.
nice because it's still like in the plex
Yeah.
of like everything is
Yes.
still
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
there's
together.
so much already downtown, and then you can collect new fans or
Yes.
Yeah.
people wanting to look at the
And
stadium.
then I know that I'm pretty sure we're building a bridge across the river too.
I saw that.
Yeah.
And I was
What?
like, what?
Yep.
Where?
I can't
Like
remember.
right where it is. I mean, it's going over the, like, you know, like TCU, like over.
Yeah.
I saw the map and I was like,
Should that be
what?
done at the same time? Do you think?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure because I think the goal is to have the stadium done first, and then the rest of the campus being built after that. I could be completely wrong in that little tidbit there, but yeah, the bridge will be done. Obviously, the way we kind of want it to work, I think, is that we'll use the bridge as our supporters march. So all of our BYB members, Brickyard Battalion, is our supporters group. They would march to the stadium across that bridge.
That's going to be so
That is
cool.
so
I'm about to
cool.
be a soccer fan.
You should. You should. I didn't get into soccer until I got the job. Basketball was my sport.
Yeah.
And so
Sure.
it's one of those things where you can really jump into it. There's leagues literally across the world.
Everywhere.
And there's always at least one player that you kind of gravitate towards. And it's just, I like it because I don't feel like I have to be tuned into the game for the entire 90 minutes. So I can like kind of scroll my phone for a little bit.
I was going to say, I don't
and
think
just-
I could be doing it.
Yeah, and just
Yeah.
once you hear the announcers get a little loud, then you look up and you're like, oh, okay, I can go back down
Something's
further.
Yeah, I didn't really know anything about it, and then I have friends on the soccer team here,
Yeah.
and I finally went to a game, and I was like, okay, this isn't like
pretty fun.
bad. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, it's
Yeah.
long,
Yeah.
but like,
It's just understanding the rules and
yeah, I did not know.
Well,
Was
there's still
yeah.
plenty of stuff that like the coaches will throw out, like position 8, position 9. This guy's a winger and he's going to be our false 9. I'm like, I have no idea what you're
You're like,
saying.
I'm glad I don't need to be the one to know this because
Exactly.
that would be difficult.
yeah,
Did it take you a while to learn? Or no?
Oh yeah. So, and that was I wasn't exposed to soccer at all growing up. My brother started playing after I had moved out of my parents. So I went to a few of his games, and he tried his best as soon as I got the job to give me like a real quick rundown of everything. But it was still certainly learning on the go in terms of the lingo and the rules and everything. I'm still learning things to this day, but I know enough now that I can make the joke of like, if I know that it's a bad call, it's a really, really bad call.
Yeah. She's like, come on, guys. Even I knew that
Come
one
on,
was bad.
guys.
That's funny. And then back to kind of like, you said that team is coming here for like a World Cup game, or you said San Antonio?
Oh, yes. Okay, so...
Sorry, I'm going way back, but I
that's
just
okay.
like...
I was like,
I'm thinking of
World
like playing
Cup?
here, or some cup. I don't remember what the word you called it.
Yeah.
But like, is that at Carroll Stadium then you guys will play that? Or?
No, we will be playing at Butler in the Selleck Bowl just because I don't remember... Oh, I think it's because of commencement. We can't play because it'll
yeah.
be... It's May 8th. And they're
that would be
already
May.
setting the field and everything, so we'll be at Butler for that one.
Butler's nice though.
Yeah, we just did a walkthrough of it this morning. Very excited. Obviously, I look at any type of situation like that as a learning experience.
Yeah.
And the more stadiums that you can work at just gives you better experience.
That's true. That would be cool. Just to be like,
Yeah.
we're here but there.
Yep. And that'll be the only game we play there, too. So, like, if we win that, it's the Open Cup.
Okay, I can remember Open
Indy
Cup.
11 is good. They are not World Cup level good, though. So... If we win that game, we'll be back at Carroll in 2 weeks after that match to play another Open Cup game. And we will play the winner of Detroit City, who is in our league, or Houston Dynamo, who are the Open Cup champion or like title holders right now.
So is it like a tournament? Mm-hmm. Like say you beat Detroit or whoever. Is that like the end? Or you have more to play?
We have more to play. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
The Open Cup it takes almost every single soccer team in the country, and they have the opportunity to play in this tournament.
Oh.
So, like, all the way from amateur to MLS. And then the way that it works is essentially, like, as long as you keep winning, you're in the tournament. Last season, we had I think it was 2 seasons ago. We had a USL Championship team make it all the way to the final. And I can't remember who they played, but it was a huge deal because we had never had a team from our league make it that far in the tournament before.
That's super cool. So it
is
does it
open.
just
Yeah.
start in Indy, or do you have to travel if you keep winning?
Possibly.
Yeah.
So the way that it works is once they have teams figured out, they will do a draw, and that determines whether we travel or not. So when we were in Chicago 2 weeks ago, that was part of the Open Cup game, and we just got drawn to go to Chicago and play their reserves. And then the way that it worked this time is we got regrouped into a foursome with Detroit, ourselves, Houston, and San Antonio. And the way that it worked is we were drawn to host, and San Antonio got drawn to play against us. So we could have easily played Houston the same way we are playing San Antonio.
So it's kind of like March Madness bracket. You just
It is to an extent, yeah.
because you have the locations like the host,
Mm-hmm.
and then you eventually move.
Okay, yeah.
That's how I have to think of this.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
It's like tournament style, sorta.
Yeah.
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 It is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got it.
See, we're learning already.
I'm learning. We're learning on this podcast today. Yeah, I don't. Should I tell her about my soccer story?
Let's hear it. You
With my
can't say that and not
Oh
tell
my
them now.
gosh. Yeah,
Sherman
you
over
have
there will
to-
think this is funny too. I played soccer when I was like 8. Like I was like before I got because I'm from a very small town. We don't have soccer. Like that's not a thing when you're older. Like
yeah.
you play park league and
Yeah.
that's it, and then you go to softball or
Sure.
something, whatever. And my coach like said me and this guy are the most aggressive like players on the team. So and I told my mom and I was like, Coach, I'm the most attractive player on the team. And my mom was like,
What? Your
I was
coach
like-
said that?
And it was like my best friend's mom. So my mom was like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. She said me and Cole are the most attractive players on the team. And that's my like one soccer memory. And that I don't think I ever played. I remember I never practiced. I would refuse to practice. I'd cry. But I'd
What?
play
Oh, yeah.
every game. I was like, But then I'd be there for the game.
How'd they play you?
Because it was park league. They
Yeah.
can't say no.
Because they thought
Yeah.
you were attractive,
I was
apparently.
Because I was good. I was so good. No, because I was fast.
Why'd you quit playing soccer?
Softball, basketball.
Yeah.
We didn't have soccer. I mean, you couldn't really grow in it. Once you aged out, you were just aged out.
Yeah.
That's true. I didn't even think about that because I I'm from a small like area too. But we had soccer. So
Yeah, you
it's
have
weird.
soccer.
It's weird that you didn't have soccer.
We had like club soccer for like a year, and they only started it because we had so many foreign exchange students that like played soccer, and they were like, let's just put them on a team, and we were like good, but like we couldn't play like because it has to be a club for like 3 years or something before it can be like official sport.
Did not last that long, or
No, I don't think it's a thing anymore. It was like 2 years, and we just don't have. I mean,
well, and I mean, if this speaks to the like youth soccer kind of environment that we have in America right now, we our academy right now, we have kids that will drive like 2.5 hours to practice every day, just because. I mean, that's like kind of the only good team that they can play on. It gives them exposure to scouts and colleges and so on and so forth, and so. You know, that's very relatable in that if you don't have a team, you sometimes have to go find a team.
Yeah, that's
hard.
That is great.
Yes.
And like soccer's becoming more popular, so I don't understand like why it's not more like.
Oh, well, I think you have like your bigger academies throughout America, and so kids will want to go and play for those academies because they get better and bigger exposure depending on what tournaments you're playing in.
Right.
Okay.
It's kind of like AAU to an extent.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you want to go and play
Yeah.
for a good AAU team because you want to be in those good tournaments.
There you go.
That makes sense. Okay.
That does make sense.
You have to the basketball relation.
Yeah.
It's easier
I'm
to
very
understand.
like basketball.
Well,
brain.
that's what, I mean, that's how I had to do, like, my first 2 years. I'd ask, I'd be like, okay, can you relate this to, like, baseball or something,
Yeah.
please? Because I don't
Yeah.
understand what you're saying.
Can you put it in a
I need a
different way?
comparison.
That's how I'm gonna have to be because baseball is the
Yeah.
what I pay attention to.
Yeah.
Well, she'll help you.
Yeah, she'll help me.
There you go, right there.
Perfect. No, I wasn't saying anything.
Okay. No. Okay. Question-wise, I guess, like back, you obviously graduated from here, and then you have your job now. Like, what was the process in between? Like, how did you get to basically where you are now?
Yeah. So I graduated high school in 2014. I took a gap semester just because I wanted to work and try to save up a decent amount of money. And then, so I started here January of 2015. I actually came in as an elementary education major, and I made it to about spring break before I realized that that was not what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. No offense to teachers. One of my best friends is like a first grade teacher. I respect everything they do because
them.
I could never. And then, so I kind of went back to like a gen ed where I was just nailing out my gen ed courses that I had to take. And I, at the time, was a lifeguard at my local pool. And one of my supervisors was a student in the IU-PUI sports management program. I had been in and around sports my entire life. I started playing basketball when I was 10. When I was little, I always said I wanted to be like a sports center broadcaster because I just loved watching them when I was getting ready for school and everything. And so I sat down with him and, you know, I was just picking his brain, like, because I thought, you know, maybe sports would be a good thing to go into, but I didn't really know what kind of jobs or roles were available in the industry. And so just talking with him, I realized I was like, I think this is something I want to give a shot. And so then I enrolled in the sports management program and then finished out my courses and everything. I finished school in December of 2018, but I walked in May of 2019 because IUPUI only has one commencement ceremony, and I wanted to be a part of that. And then in the time, my last semester, I was doing my internship at the Fuel, the hockey team here in town. And so, as crazy as it sounds, just the connections I made there. One of the guys that I worked with who was just kind of a game day associate, because after my semester ended, I continued working game days with them. They asked me to come back, so I did that, and they were going to pay me. So obviously another source of income is always nice. Yeah. And so I worked with, his name is James Fields, and at that time when January rolled around, the season, the hockey season was starting to come to an end. He was like, hey, I need a game day intern over at Indy 11. And I was like, well, I'm in game ops now. It makes sense to just kind of do a jump and do another internship. So I did a season-long internship with them. And then I worked with, again, James and my boss now, Andy Pigish. At the time, he was doing a lot with the team aside while also being our game ops director. So he had the coach of the year, or I'm sorry, the ear of the coach. And I just got very fortunate with some timing that the admin before me was leaving at the end of the season, and I interviewed for the job, and like I said, Andy Piggish really advocated for me, and that's how I got it. And then I started January of 2020.
Yeah, connections are everything.
Connections
though.
are important.
They really are. I know.
They are.
I kind of always rolled my eyes when professors would say that to me in class, but it's 100% true. If I wouldn't have got the job at Indy Fuel, then I would have met James. I wouldn't have got the internship, and I wouldn't have the job that I have now.
Yeah.
Exhibit A, exhibit B,
Yeah.
exhibit C. Boom, boom, boom.
And it's funny too because the person who hired me on at the Fuel is now one of my coworkers at Indy 11.
No way.
Yep.
The hockey to soccer.
Yep.
Did you know hockey?
Nope. Nope. Did
I was
not.
gonna say she took the two like not most known sports and worked in
Yep.
them.
And now she
Yeah, yeah.
knows them.
I wouldn't say I know. I would not say I know hockey. That was one where I was just kind of like, I'm here.
Yeah.
Have fun.
You're like, hit him!
That's whenever a fight would break out.
me.
I'd always be like, punch him harder.
I'm like, let him fight.
Yeah.
That's me.
Did you have a sport that you specifically wanted to work for before all of this?
Not really. I thought always basketball because that was like, you know, the sport that I grew up in and around playing it for 10 plus years. But it's funny you mentioned that because in my interview with the Fuel, when I was applying to be an intern there, one of the questions I asked the interviewer is, you know, what's your favorite sport and why are you not working in that one if it's not hockey? And he said, he was like, my personal advice is to not work in your favorite sport because then it kind of takes away a little bit of the magic, so on, or, you know, you would say,
Yeah.
because then it becomes like an actual job. You're going to work every day, not necessarily like, oh, I want to go watch a basketball game just because I want to.
Never thought about that.
I didn't either
Dang.
until he had mentioned that. Yeah.
Maybe you just work in a different league.
Yeah,
I'll work in the WNBA and watch college. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean,
It's different.
it is.
It's different. It's funny to think about because you're like, you want to work with that sport that you've loved to watch for so long, and then to think about it like that, it kind
Yeah.
of switch.
I feel like part of
Got
it
me.
could be like, I know this game, so I
Yeah.
can work in this game.
It certainly, I think, varies from like person to person. I do
Definitely.
think that I would enjoy working in basketball, but I've also come to really love soccer. So
Yeah.
I think that I think I just kind of want to stay in soccer for a bit.
There you
That's
go.
cool. That's helpful that
Yeah.
you've learned to like it
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
I'm learning it still slowly, but
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. So one of your facts was you were at the first national televised USL championship match. Like,
Yes.
what was that like? Where was it? Was all the details.
It was down in Louisville. It was April 6th. So we were leading into the first Final Four match that was taking place that day. It was a 4 p.m. kickoff. I didn't have to do a ton of stuff. I wasn't responsible for a whole lot, but it was still just cool to be a part of. From what our coach came from an MLS team, and so he said that a lot of what we dealt with on that game is what they deal with every game for the MLS. So it's good to get that experience. The one thing with USL Championship, they're a pretty heavy fine league. So that's the way that they keep teams accountable. And one of the biggest things that they emphasize, especially for matches that are going to be on TV, is making sure that our kickoff is on time. So my responsibility in that is, as the coach, is giving their pregame talk and everything, I'm giving 5, 3, and 1 minute warnings to ensure that our team is getting out on time, they're getting to the field on time, they're doing the national anthem on time, so on and so forth, and ultimately that leads to an on-time kickoff. So I was doing that, and then the week leading up to that game, I was coordinating with our coach and our players on different types of media things that they had to take care of for CBS.
Dang.
Yeah.
And then game days, what were you doing for that match? Like for the championship match, I mean.
Yeah, so it was just, again, those 5, 3, and 1 minute warnings that
Okay.
I had to make sure. And then they did a halftime hit where they came in and did like a quick pan of our locker room during halftime. So I was just ensuring that they came in at the right time, so that way they weren't in the middle of like a coach's talk or so on and so
Yeah.
forth.
Not spilling
That's
any
cool.
tea.
Yeah, they
on the
picked
team.
Louisville because Louisville has arguably the best stadium in the USL
I've heard
Championship.
that, actually.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful,
I have heard that.
beautiful stadium. If you have a chance, Louisville's a really quick drive downtown
Yeah.
or down. If you can catch a Racing Louisville match, NWSL match, highly recommend it. They put on a good show.
We're about to go to Louisville.
Yeah.
It's only like an hour. It's not even
It's really not
far.
bad. Yeah, you can do it in one day easily.
Oh yeah, it's an easy day trip.
No, I have heard that. I don't remember who was talking about it, but someone was
If
like,
you want tickets, I could probably get you tickets.
Oh, perfect.
there you go.
There you go.
Linked up right there. Now we have to go.
Yeah,
Now
no,
we have to
We
go.
have to experience soccer and other things.
I-
Because we just go to basketball,
Yeah, we don't really do that.
adventure.
I've heard, and you can confirm this too, like soccer fans are like a whole other breed.
Yeah, no, they 100% are. I think it's because you're not scoring every, 30 seconds the way that you are in a
Yeah,
basketball game.
right.
You're not scoring every, maybe once a quarter that you are in football. So, it can literally end in like a 0-0 draw, or you can have one goal that happens for the entire 90 minutes. We just had a match 2 weeks ago where we had 9 goals scored. So it's,
Dang.
there's a whole lot, there's a very big spectrum that can be hit in terms of the scoring. But I think for me, one, obviously not as many scoring opportunities. So when they do happen, it's a huge, huge deal. But I think too is the skill that these guys have. Like, I can't even fathom some of the things that they do with the ball at their feet. It's truly unbelievable to watch. And then one of the things that I was surprised at the most my first season, they do like GPS tracking to see how fast they can run, how much they're running in a game. We also do heart rate monitors to, figure out how they're doing in those high intense moments. And I can remember after the first game, one of our midfielders ran almost 9 miles in a game. And that's when I was like, oh, these guys are serious. So it's the athleticism that these guys have is crazy. But I think ultimately, like with the fans, it's just they feel such a connection to these guys, and because it's not necessarily true in the USL Championship, but over in like the Premier League, you can have a guy on the team, he can sign like a 6-year contract, and so you really get to have build. Maybe it's I can't think of the word right now. Like parasocial relationship with them, but even still, you feel like you really know that guy. You watch him every Saturday for 8 months out of the year, and you feel like you build a relationship with them.
That's cool.
I know it's part of the job, but how is making connections with those players hard to see them go, and certain players you wish would have stayed longer?
Yeah, 100%. So one of my favorite players that I have and I think ever will work with, his name is Jose Garcia Perez. He started over in the Spanish league. He played against Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. He has pictures with them on the field.
Oh,
so that's
dang.
really cool. He came over to America, played at the New York Cosmos, which is a pretty historic club in America. Pele went and played for them for a bit and everything. So then he came over to Indy 11 in 2019, I believe. I was with him as a player for 3 seasons, and then he transitioned to a coach, one of our assistant coaches last season. And him and I called him one of my constants for a while, because in this league, you normally only have 1 or 2 year contracts. So you're not dealing with players on a long-term basis. And so having him around for 4 years was really cool, because he was just also an amazing human being, and I loved him so much. I took him and his family to the airport when he left to go back over to Spain, and I managed to make it until I had dropped him off and I had started driving back, but I quite literally had to pull over because I was crying so hard, because
so
I just
sad.
missed him already at that point. And then we had another player, Carl, we met. He was one of my favorites. At that time, I was living in some of the team housing, just because I got a little bit of a discount, and so obviously I was going to take advantage of that. But I would babysit his kid a lot, and so it was just a different relationship that I was able to build with those 2 guys, and when they left, it was certainly incredibly sad to see them go. But a lot of the guys in this league will kind of stay in this league, and we play every single team now at least once throughout the season. So I get to see them regardless. Just
nice.
in Colorado last week, I got to see 2 of my old favorite players, Jonas Fjellberg and Juan Tejada. And then when we go to Loudon, or when Loudon comes to us, I'll get to see Robbie Dambrot, who I really enjoyed working with. So, and then even sometimes guys will come back. So Cam Lindley and Tyler Gibson and Maka King that are on our team right now. They were with me in 2020, and then Tyler Gibson came back this year, and Macaulay King and Cam Lindley came back last year. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Super cool to reconnect
Yes.
with
Yeah.
players that you enjoyed working with.
Yes, because I think that's one of the biggest things with this job is, like, yeah, you have your normal responsibilities that I have to do on a, daily and weekly basis, but being able to build those relationships really helps kind of get you through the tough times. And so it's crucial, in my opinion, to build those types of relationships.
For sure. Definitely in what we work with, like team attendance, it's cool to learn, like, how the players are,
Yep.
like the personalities. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
talk to them when they come in and they recognize you. It's cool.
It
just-
humanizes them.
Yeah.
It really does.
And it's
Yeah.
just, it's cool to hear their stories too, because like I've worked with guys from literally all over the world. Like worked with an Australian my first year. We currently have a guy from New Zealand on the team. Worked with a guy from Ghana for the last 2 seasons. Plenty of British people, an Austrian, and a lot of guys from Central and South America as well. So it's just nice to learn their story and kind of get an idea of what their culture is like too.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I bet that's cool to learn. Do you ask them, like, about their culture or anything?
Yeah, I
Like-
try to. So I'm normally the one to pick the guys up from the airport whenever they get
Okay.
in. So that's kind of, I have a rotation of like small talk questions that I ask them, and I always ask them about home and what they miss about home, what they like about America. Sometimes it's like when I pick them up, it is the guys like first time coming to America too. So
Man, and it's Indianapolis, Indiana.
Good old
You said it, not me.
Indiana.
You
What a
said it,
good
not me.
old welcome.
we've got Chicago though, so like the guys get
Indy's
kind of
honestly-
excited about
it's
that.
Fine. It's not that bad.
Yeah, it's just normally I'm picking them up in like January or February.
Oh, sorry,
Ooh,
guys.
sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like 6 out of the 8
So
months
is
is
it going to get
cold.
any better than that? Yeah.
It gets better.
Do you see a lot of like, you have a lot of international players, I'm guessing, in the league, but like language barriers, is that ever?
Yeah.
Especially when you're picking them up and like.
Yes. So it hasn't been quite as bad the last handful of years. But my first year worked with a guy, Jefferson Contreras, and he knew no English. So it was using Google Translate pretty much every time that I could with him. And then we have plenty of guys throughout the years that speak Spanish. And so then it was also getting to a point where I would have like my go-to person who would be my translator for Jefferson. But a lot of the guys coming in do have some very like broken English that they know. So I am able to hold a conversation with them. But there are still times, like we have a player now where I still sometimes rely on Google Translate in order to
Yeah.
kind of like text him, because that's the other thing. Sometimes they'll know how to speak it, but they don't always know how to read it or write it.
Yeah.
Okay. Does the team not have a translator?
No, we do not. With us being in a lower league, we obviously have a little bit lower of a budget than like the pros do, and that's just not a staff member, a staff employee that we have. But we have a coach who speaks Portuguese because he's from Brazil, and he also has Spanish that he knows. So we rely on him a lot to kind of be our translator for that individual player.
That's nice to have that. Have
Yes.
you learned some?
Not really.
hard.
I've asked, like, we had a partnership with Ivy Tech where they were going to do, like, teach a player English. But
Oh.
it's hard to do that kind of partnership because we also sometimes will trade the player mid-season. And so,
Yeah.
they can get, like, 6 weeks into a course and then kind of have to leave
Right.
depending on performance and how the team is doing and everything.
Right.
So I did say, I was like, if we want to do a staff member, I'd be willing to learn some Spanish.
Yeah, no kidding.
But
That
would be cool.
unfortunately, Ivy Tech was like, they want the star player.
Yeah, they're like, we don't want you, sorry.
Like, but I want to learn too.
I know, I was like, please.
Duolingo about to
Please.
get that.
It might, honestly.
That's, wow.
Because that's how you've learned, right? Or have you just kind of
I mean, I took Spanish for like 7 years, and then I've been traveling
7
to
years?
6th grade to senior year. I took it.
Oh, okay.
And then, like, I just travel a lot of, like, it's easier to learn it by speaking it,
Yeah.
is what I've realized. So,
Yeah, and I took French, so that helped me not at all.
I know a lot of people have taken, like, weird languages in high school, and I'm
yeah,
like,
I definitely did that because I was like, well, I want to be different, and then I regret it every day since.
I'm so glad I took it.
I took
Because, like,
Spanish
my
for
stepdad-
3 years.
my stepdad, he's like, oh, I know German. I'm like, yeah, but you don't really, like, use that here. Like,
Yeah.
Spanish you can use pretty
Right.
much here.
We do have 2 Germans on our team,
Oh.
and I did take some German, so I like was very, very briefly able to understand some of the words they said, but even still, it's to a point where I can't follow a conversation.
That's a little too hard. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Is that tough for, like, coaches?
To an extent, yes. But I think that a lot of them, or at least the ones that I've worked with, they have a go-to assistant coach that knows at least Spanish.
That
Or
makes
like,
sense.
do players just communicate with each other as
Probably
well?
too.
Yeah. Yep.
Dang. That's so interesting.
Uh huh.
I feel like soccer is very international.
World's game.
Yeah. Woo.
It's one of the few, like baseball and football are starting to play.
But soccer is your
Overseas.
like. Everybody plays
yeah.
soccer. So all the languages. That's the thing. Like, if you have a translator, like, how do you know which languages to like
To
have?
prepare for. Yeah.
You just have to
So if
know
you have like
everything.
Ghana and Portuguese and
Yeah. Well, and even before I got there, or before I entered into my role, we had a Russian player as well. So it's like you really got to know all of them if you really want to be a translator for a soccer team.
yeah, no kidding. Russia, Germany, Ghana. At least New Zealand's like English,
Yeah,
but it's different.
it is.
Is it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They use the like the mate and the like rubbish and like the Australian.
It's not cleats, it's boots. It's not a field, it's a
Oh.
pitch.
Oh, I didn't even think about
So is it
that.
hard with lingo too then? Slang.
To an extent, but I've also kind of unironically started like picking up on it.
I was gonna say
Because like my brother called me out on it a couple of weeks ago. I was talking about a road over in Speedway called Cunningham, but I say it Cunningham because that's how all my British coworkers
they're
say it.
Oh,
Like
okay.
Birmingham. I don't say Birmingham. I say Birmingham. And then
Oh.
the second coach I worked under was Scottish, and he would always say good shout, which is kind of like, oh, that's a really good call, or what a great idea you just had. But instead you say, what a shout.
Good
And so
shout.
yeah, good shout.
Oh.
And so
What a
now
shout.
I just use that in my everyday lingo now.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Do you see them picking up on like American?
To an extent,
Mannerism.
but I think that they also they almost make their own little cliques as they're in the team. So like
sure.
most of the British guys will hang out with all the British guys. A lot of the South American and Central American guys will hang out together. The two Germans hang out all the time. But you know, they still like interact with the players
Right.
and everything because you know, again, a 10-month season, we really have to be able to like be a true family, or else it's going to be a
Oh,
long
yeah.
10
Yeah,
months.
y'all gotta like each other. or-
Yeah.
With you traveling a lot, what's the favorite place you've been to?
Ooh, San Diego was probably my favorite trip that we had.
So beautiful there.
So pretty. And I had never been to California at that point. So I also had never seen the Pacific Ocean. So I got to really cross a lot of things off my bucket list at that trip. One of the surprise ones that I was surprised I liked it as much as I do is El Paso, Texas. I don't know. The thing that with the cities that we go to too is that sometimes we're only there for like 48 hours. So I really only get to see like
Oh,
what's around the
yeah.
hotel, the stadium, and then the airport. But El Paso, we had an opportunity to really explore the city a bit because our coaches last year coached in El Paso. So they made it a point to like take us around and everything.
That's nice.
If I would have had my passport at that point, I didn't at that time. I would have been able to go see a Juarez game across the border, so that would have been really cool. But just I wasn't gonna risk it. They were like, "Well, you can go without a passport," and I was like, "I'm gonna play it safe."
You're like, I'd rather not
yeah,
do that.
yeah. But El Paso and San Diego probably my favorites.
San Diego is so.
Tampa's also surprisingly
Yeah.
really nice. I think we always just manage to go either at the beginning or the end of the year. So it's like we're going from like 30-degree weather to like 60s and really, really nice. Yeah. So that probably has something to do with it. But yeah, those three with San Diego being my favorite.
So when did you get your passport?
Just in February.
So you haven't
No, yeah. I haven't-
traveled overseas yet?
Nope. There was a Canadian team in Ottawa, but they folded going into the 2020 season. So I didn't have to worry about it.
Dang.
Yep.
Don't go to
But now
Australia.
she just has the passport.
Don't go to Australia.
She don't like the bugs.
Oh, yeah, no, I get that. I wouldn't
yeah.
want to deal with that.
See, you're so concerned about these
I
bugs.
am. It's just because I wanted to go there for the longest time, and then I learned about these scary bugs.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
I knew these. We had family friends who lived there. They never talked about the bugs, but they did say that like kangaroos and koalas were like deer and squirrel for us. Like they'll just cross your path while you're like running and like
Except I think kangaroos seem scarier
they're
than
gonna
deer.
like punch
Oh,
you,
yeah.
bro.
They got muscles.
They-
you see those?
Those big buff ones, yeah. seen those videos.
Don't get in a fight with them. That's like geese for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're kind of scary. I'm not gonna lie.
I still do want to go to
Walk
Australia.
past them on the canal, and I'm like, don't come
Those
near
geese
me.
are angry. Oh man, are you ready? Last question. You want to ask
Ready?
it? You ask it.
Okay, I actually have two.
Oh, okay.
Saw that you're a major Swiftie.
Oh, yes.
We gotta start
We
there.
can't get into this too much, or I will not be able to stop
Okay,
talking
I'll
about
just
her.
ask, what's your favorite song? I know that's a hard
No,
one.
no. You have to do favorite album. Let's go
Okay.
favorite album.
Yeah, if that's easier.
Taylor's version album.
Taylor's
Taylor's
version.
Let's go
version,
Taylor's
obviously.
version album.
Obviously. Ooh, that's really rough. I think ultimately it's 1989.
Period.
Because I hate to admit it, I'm so very sorry to all the other Swifties, but I did enter a period where I was like, I'm way too cool to like Taylor Swift now.
Oh,
and
yeah.
1989 was my album that got me back into Taylor Swift. It was also, it dropped either right as I was starting college, so I can remember walking around campus and listening. Yes, I was jamming. However, Red also holds a very, very special place in my heart because that was my first CD that I bought when I first started driving. So that was like a big one.
Big deal.
And then recency bias, Torture Poets Department is phenomenal.
I've only heard like 2 songs. It's just not
She's a-
what
Of
I
her
feel-
whole discography?
No.
Okay.
No, just the
Of the new
newest
album.
Got it.
She's
No.
kind of a hater.
I'm not a hater.
It's okay. We
Don't
can
call me
convert
out.
anybody to be a Swiftie.
Yeah, you were just like they sound the same, which
Just from the 2 songs I've heard. That's
That's been a big critique on this album, and I get it. But I'm a stan through and through.
But I feel like with the vibe of this one, like you can only do so much.
I said this to my coworker the other day, and this is her first like true sad album that she's
Yeah.
put out in a hot minute.
It is.
like
It
arguably
is.
since Speak Now, and so
That's true.
Yeah, and so I think it's tough because maybe if you didn't join until like after Folklore or even through the Eras tour at Midnights, you've only had like super poppy, happy
is true.
Taylor.
country era.
Yeah,
Country Taylor.
and now you
My
have her
favorite.
like she's giving us what she's always
She
given
pouring
us.
that heart out.
Yeah, but
she gives.
it's to each their own. But I think Torture Poets Department is one of her best ones she's ever put out.
We'll have to listen to it.
Yeah, we'll
We've
have
yet
to.
to listen to the
Well,
new
she
one.
like doubled it, right?
Yeah, yeah, she
Doubled it.
was a menace that night.
Like
yeah.
she midnight released it, and then like people get through it at like 1:30 a.m. and she's like, boom, 2 a.m. Here's the rest of it. And there's 32.
Literally exactly what happened to me. And then we were flying to Colorado the next day. So I was just like, I have to go to bed, Taylor. I can't do this.
You like
That
download
is
for the
stay
plane.
up. Yeah.
I don't even like, but my TikTok was like, oh my gosh, she released another one.
Yep.
Like all my friends were like 2,
It
and
was
I'm like
insane.
2. 32 songs is crazy.
31. But
31
yes.
songs is crazy.
She would know.
She knew. I was close. 31 songs is
That's
crazy.
a lot.
Insane. Yes.
Usually albums have like 10 songs.
Yeah, I think
10,
she
12.
normally averages at like 15. And so,
She
yeah.
said,
She's doing the most.
take it and double and give it to the next one.
Yeah. Oh, that was a good shout. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, second
Now
question.
the last question.
We usually ask this to everybody. Who is your favorite female athlete and why?
Yeah. I'd watched a few of the podcasts, so I also came prepared for this one.
Oh, she knows.
Leah Williamson. She is the captain of the English women's national team over, and she plays in the Women's Super League over in England for Arsenal. She's the captain there. She is just now coming back from an ACL injury. And I fell in love with the English team when they won the Euros, I think 2 years ago. I think soccer, they just give so much to the sport, but Leah specifically is a huge advocate for women's sports in general. And obviously, the more exposure we have with women's sports is the better we can be. But she has a video that I think really speaks volumes where she's being asked about, how do you handle or how do you deal with the haters on socials and the internet and everything. And she had a quote that was essentially like, I don't like lacrosse, but I don't go out and say that lacrosse shouldn't exist just because I don't like it.
Yeah.
That's, it's kind of the way that women or people will view women's sports in general, but also women's soccer, and that, just because it's a woman playing, they don't want it on their TV, which is, just the worst take you could have as an individual, in my opinion. But she what I like the most about her is that she finds a cause that she really truly believes in and puts her all into it. So after they won the Euros, they had a huge revelation of like women's soccer over in England and everything. But then when she tore her ACL, she was kind of in a timeline where it felt like every other week there was news coming out about another huge English star or even American soccer star that tore their ACL. It's a huge epidemic, in my opinion, in the women's side. And she's doing everything she can to kind of fight for more research being happening, as well as, you know, finding solutions and talking about the uncomfortable things that can go into why a woman is tearing her ACL easier and more regularly than a male athlete. But yeah, I just really like that she finds that cause and she'll really fight for it.
I'm so glad you said that, because if you look at, I'm a basketball fan, women's basketball ACLs in the past 3 months even. Elizabeth Kitley, Paige Beckers came back from hers for 2 years, and it's so common.
It's an epidemic. It truly is.
Like, and I'm glad she's like, someone figure this out, because people are quick to just be like, oh, your trainers suck, oh, your whatever. And I'm like, I don't think it's...
That's not it. That's absolutely not it.
Every school and every star athlete is coming this problem.
It happens more with women?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't seen much about any man tearing his ACL.
Yeah. No.
Think about college men's basketball. You don't really see it. But you can name Paige Beckers, Elizabeth Kitley, that girl from Iowa. Like, I mean, it's like...
And in soccer, it was Leah Williamson, Beth Mead, Vivian Miedema, Midge Purce just recently did it, Katarina Macario, Mal Pugh just dealt with a kney injury and is coming back. So many. It's again, crazy. An epidemic.
I mean, our friend here, Scoops, had it. Shout out Scoops. But,
that's our nickname.
Yeah. But, like, players on our teams here, like...
Yeah. And if you guys have any free time, you should go to Arsenal's YouTube page. They did a whole like mini docuseries. I think it's 6 episodes, and they're about 20 to 30 minutes each. And it is Beth Mead and Vivian Miedema, because they were the first 2 on Arsenal that it was literally a week apart that they tore their ACLs. And they talk to like their trainer, and they go into the psychological aspect and why certain things in their personal life could have affected how they were feeling on the field the day of their tear. They also talk about like menstrual cycles and why that's a huge aspect of ACLs and why women are tearing them more than men, because obviously men don't have menstrual cycles.
Right.
But they talk to a lot of like leading researchers in that field. And so, you know, if you have free 30 minutes every once in a while, it's really good docuseries.
We're about to watch that. I'm so interested to see what comes out of this research, because
I didn't even know that women were tearing. There's more than men. We need to watch that.
Yeah, we do.
I'll send you all the link.
Yeah, send the link over. But that is like, that'll be so interesting to see. Like, I don't even think about like psychological or like menstrual. Like, you don't even think about like, oh, a woman's like, yeah, I guess our bodies are different, but like, you don't think about like.
No. And also, crazy fact is that Nike only just recently came out with the first soccer boot that is specifically made for women. So for all these years, they've been wearing men's boots.
Oh my. Put that in the research, y'all. Because that is...
The more you
in
know.
Women's sports, everybody.
Please.
That's all we have to say.
Please do.
That's how we're gonna...
That's how we're ending that.
Punto period. Invest in women's sports, y'all, because we're getting there.
Period.
Just need to speed it up a little bit.
Yeah, go a little faster.
Please, it's 2024.
Everybody out there, go faster. Please.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for having me. This was very fun.
Absolutely.
She got to see all the sides.
She got to see a lot today.
She did.
We were on one.
It's been fun. Informal. All the things. What's informative?
There you go.
Informal, too.
Brains aren't working.
It's not been formal either.
The brains aren't
informative.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Peace out.